Welcome to the Fat Dad Fishing Show podcast, the podcast aimed at helping saltwater fishermen catch more fish in less time and have a better on-the-water experience. My name is Rich, and I'm the host of this show. Tonight, I'm joined by co-host John, who is the owner of Creeley Custom Rods, and Chris Baliban from Tightlines Bait and Tackle in Absecon, New Jersey. If you fish saltwater in New Jersey, you've likely interacted with Chris. You know just how much knowledge he has when it comes to saltwater fishing. You can talk with him about everything from tackle to tactics for inshore and offshore species. And in today's show, we're going to focus on the tackle and specifically on choosing the right rods and reels in a rods and reels one-on-one type of format. Keep in mind, this audio was originally recorded in February of 2022, and I did my best to edit out some random background noise, but despite my best efforts, you are going to hear some noise from time to time in the background, so I apologize in advance for that. But despite any random sounds that might come through, this episode is packed with great information, so kick back, relax, and take it all in. You want to jump in, Chris? Do you want to start off and let people know a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Tightlines?
Yeah, sure. We're located in Somers Point, New Jersey, off of the Great Egg Inlet. I've been there for, I guess this is our 7th season. Owned a company called 24/7 Bait and Tackle that probably a lot of people have heard of, or maybe have even had a few stores in different locations, and kind of worked hard to get to where I am now, from pretty much nothing, and just have a pretty diverse selection of rods, reels. We have a 5,000 square foot store, water access, pretty much everything you could want to see in any given tackle store, whether you're a surf fisherman, a boater, a bridge fisherman. We have a wide variety of baits. Anybody who's never been there should definitely check it out.
Yeah, I'll say I got lost in that store, and it's one of those stores where you love going because you can literally get lost, and before you know it, you've been in there half an hour. You're just starting to see stuff that you still haven't seen since you've been in there, and you're like, I got to hit the water eventually. But
yeah, you need time to get in there for sure. It's deceiving too from the road. It's it doesn't have much of a store frontage, but like as you go into the store, it goes way back deep into the bay area. Yeah. So I think this store is like maybe 150 foot long, and only 50 foot wide. So it's just a long tunnel basically. But it's we got a lot of stuff.
I was shocked.
Unique place. Yeah. Most people are that come in for the first time. They're like, wow, I never realized what type of inventory you have, and people are pretty impressed by it.
Yeah, it's a lot of inventory, but you also have services there too.
Yes.
So you have reel maintenance and things like that. What other services do you have going?
Well, for offshore fishermen, we do how I kind of got into this whole thing. We started a offshore bait delivery service, which for tuna guys and people that are fishing deep, offshore, we actually deliver to the boat. And you can place an order either online or, through either text me online or place a phone call order. So that's one of our services. We do an in-house reel maintenance, which is hard to come by nowadays. My dad actually is the one who does all the reel maintenance. And sometimes he's there with COVID. He hasn't been lately. So I kind of just get the reels over to him where he's doing them, and they get right back. But we have a super quick turnaround time compared to a lot of places. We're if we have parts, we usually get them back within a week. If we don't have parts, it might take a little longer, but we get right on them and try to accommodate the customer as best as we can.
Are there any particular brands that you focus on?
We pretty much are certified to do any of them other than Van Staal, only because Van Staal at this point has fish heads, and they kind of been dealing with them for a long time, and you have to go through a whole vigorous process, which one day we probably will. But as of right now, we can't officially work on a Van Staal. So we actually, when people drop them off to us, I'll actually bring them up to fish heads or send them to fish heads.
Gotcha.
So, we have a good working relationship for that brand. But yeah, pretty much anything else. I mean, we do a lot of Accurate. We do a lot of Avid, Shimano Pen, Abu, any Pure Fishing, any you name it, Maxell from a brand like that to, Tsunami. What I mean? You can anything you can name, we fix for the most part, and if it's worth it. Some of them, a lot of times it's all about how you take care of your gear too. It's not always beneficial to, put $50 into a reel that might not be worth $50 or might only be worth 100. And then there's sentimental values, just like with rods, you know what I mean? So, you receive your grandfather's reel and it might be worth it for you to fix that thing.
Right.
But to another guy, it might not be. But we offer the service, and we're pretty good at it. It's we take pride in it, and we get a lot of South Jersey repairs and maintenance. So that's another one of the services that we provide. We have, probably the best service that we're known for is customer service and our hours. I mean, we're open in the summer from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. I'm coming from 24/7 Bait and Tackle, where we were open 24 hours a day.
Right.
So we minimize that. Obviously, times are a little different, but the whole thing is like we like to be open during the season, and we want to be there for all our customers, and I think we do a pretty good job of it.
And you have a huge selection of appropriate bait at the appropriate times. I've noticed. You go in and it's like, you don't have this, do you? It's like, of course I do.
Yeah.
The guy at the counter is like, why wouldn't we?
It's not often we don't have what you're looking for as far as bait. I mean, we run into some issues here and there, like any human being would, but I try to make sure when that guy's coming in for white leggers or greens or when sheep's head season's in, we were getting fiddlers, and there's a lot of specialty baits that we typically always have live spot. We always have flats and butters and pre-cuts, and we fresh rig ballyhoo, and we do a lot of things that that separate us from many other stores, I think, and from what I've been told. But we take pride in it, and I'm glad to help anybody have a good fishing trip, a good experience for the day with their family. And I know how important it is. People work hard and they want to play hard, and fishing is a passion. It's an addiction, so anything we can do to make the experience better and easier, and maybe give a little light on what they need or in any way, then that's what I'm looking to do for people.
Well, it's there you go, James Flynn, great winter field trip spot. Yeah. With that said, what are your winter hours? So
winter hours right now, so typically so the last 2 seasons since COVID, typically January and February, we weren't open in the past at all. Like we dedicate all our time in 10 months, and we work super hard, and it kind of gives us a little break. But now we're open 8 to 4. We started doing this 2 seasons ago when COVID hit, and for the fishing industry, COVID, as terrible as the virus is, it was a tremendous uplift for the whole industry. People were getting people could spend time with their family on their boat, just them. You know what I mean? And people took up fishing. People took up boating. Boat sales were at all-time highs. And, it's something you could do outside and not, be around people and not worry about quarantining. And we're not worrying about, all the stuff that we're used to at this point. But, so we are open 8 to 4 now, 7 days a week. It's not, great hours, but it's decent. And, a lot of it is this time of year, what people do? They drop off reels to be cleaned and maintained. It gives you got 2 months here where, your equipment's not taking a beating like it normally is. So get it done. March rolls around. By the first week of March, we're dumping reels and rods out the door. You know what I mean? Just to get maintenance done. And that way you're ready for the next 10 months. And then when it comes back again, we do it all over. A lot of it's that. And we are open selling bait. We sell jumbo bloods for perch fishermen right now. We have clam and stuff like that. I mean, it's nothing. It's not a fraction of our normal bait selection, but we're accommodating what we can at this point for what season we have. You're still getting some guys togging on weekends. Our tanks aren't on right this second because of the cold water and the cold weather. The pumps won't run, so we don't sell that kind of stuff right now, probably until the first week of March. And then that, like, all the togging stuff will be back in, and then minnows will come in, and like all your lives. But right. Anybody who's an artificial fisherman, I mean, we have a pretty large selection of anything you could possibly need for that.
That's what I got lost looking at.
Yeah, I mean that's our big thing too. I mean, we have good bait selection, but if you're a lure fisherman, which a lot of serious fishermen are lure fishermen, let's face it, right? We have pretty much almost anything you can name, and I try to keep up with the times and get new things in constantly every week.
So let's go back to what you were just talking about, the reel maintenance. I mean, this is the time of year to do it, unless you're togging or perch fishing. There's there's not much going on.
No.
I guess it could be surf striped bass fishing. That's still open, but it's got to be out front. For those that are unaware, it has to be out front. Can't be in an inlet. Can't be in the backwaters.
Yeah, and it's funny, a lot of people don't even know about that.
Yeah,
it's like I told guys today in the store. They're like, "Oh, we're trying to catch a bass." I'm like, "You better be out front." You know what I mean? It's not. These are the laws. We got to live by them, and I can't control what they do when they leave, but I make sure to tell people, and a lot of them don't even know. They're like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, 100%. You got till March 1."
Yeah, I see a lot of people throughout the winter. It's like, I don't think you should be doing that, and then they claim they're fishing for bluefish if they know.
I know. Well, you know what? The perch guys they're throwing circle hooks, little mini circle hooks. And, they're gonna. The reality is you're gonna catch a bass in the backwater if you're perch fishing, right?
Yeah.
You just got to release it, and you got to not be targeting one. So that's just the way it is.
Well, you'll know if they're targeting one by the equipment that they're using when they're perch fishing.
And the size of the hooks. Exactly.
They're out there with their trout rods and their smallmouth bass rods. Then they're going for perch.
Right, exactly. Ultralight. Yeah, totally.
If John's out there with his togging gear, you know what he's actually doing. That telephone pole and an accurate on there.
That's it, man. It's John.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the maintenance though. So what type of maintenance do you typically? So, well, I guess most people, I think the reel, in my opinion, and maybe you could shed some light on this, that needs the maintenance the most, in my experience, has always been the spinning reels. Do you find that to be true, or is it more of the conventionals?
I'm not discriminating either way. I mean, I feel like if you're using a reel, whether it's a round conventional, a bait cast, or a spinning reel, it's the same mechanisms. They're covered differently, but if you're using them, they got to be cleaned. I mean, they got to be maintained. And when I say that, I mean, wash it, hose it off when it's done. Some guys spray the whole thing down with WD-40. My dad says not to. The next guy comes in and says I've been doing it for 100 years. You know what I mean? And I've never had a problem. So there's so many different rights and wrongs to this thing. But the main thing is cleaning, is positively hosing it down. And of course, if you can ever get at least the top spool on a spinning reel off and clean underneath of that, that's not gonna solve every issue, but it's gonna keep your main, your line rollers and all your bail and your all your main body necessities from rusting, and that's the main thing at this point. But if you don't know how to take a reel apart, that's what we do. So you drop it off to your local tackle store, and they're going to be able to take care of that. Most guys don't know how to take you don't know how many guys come in with a bag of parts.
Yeah.
And they say, I tried to take this reel apart, so can you please help me here?
Yeah.
And they try, you know what I mean? They watch a YouTube video, but it's like, if you're a handy person, you get it. If you're not, you don't. My dad's been doing this for me since I started this business, and he's a super, super handy mechanical guy. He can fix anything. You know what I'm saying? And I don't have that quality. I'm good. I understand it all, but I give it to him. You know what I mean? So I totally understand the people who bring him in, because I'd be one too.
Yeah.
So I can't stress enough, always clean them, try to keep them lubricated. And once a year, if you're using it, drop it off. I mean, for $25, you got an investment that you're going to keep sacred. So, I mean, it's well worth it, and you got to do it. It's like anything, right? I mean, it's like not changing a reel in your car.
I have a reel. So I use relatively inexpensive reels on a kayak because you can lose them. Sure. I don't want to be crying at the end of the day.
Yeah,
so
I get it.
Historically used like a Penn Fierce, even the Penn Pursuit.
Nothing wrong with them.
Well, there's nothing wrong with them until my Penn Fierce seized up on me.
I mean, guess
6 months I've had it rinsed every time. And
I sell $500-$600 reels that seize up on people.
Yeah.
So, it's just a matter of how you take care of them.
Yeah. But definitely, so that one's not worth the maintenance. I mean, it's an $89 reel. It's kind of disposable is the way that I kind of think about it.
You're looking at it like, let me get 2 seasons out of it, right?
Exactly. If I get 2 seasons,
it's $40 a year. Why dump another 25 into what I can buy another one?
Yep. Exactly.
I totally get it. And we, believe it or not, we clean a ton of those reels. pursuits, fierces, battles. I mean, we do them all the time. I mean, it is worth it to some people. You know what I mean? And while we're in there, if we have to throw a bearing in there or a line roller, they're nickels and dimes. So in the end, they might say, you know what, let me get one more season out of this for $40. And, you know, yeah, of course you could spend 80 and buy a new one, but they might get one more season out of it, and they're fine with that. You know,
well, I might bring this one down if I can get the the reel, spool off.
Why is it seized on there?
Yeah.
I
don't know how that happened. I take care of, you know, but I bring it up for that point is I do take care of them. You know, I hose them down.
You hose them down.
You know, they're dried. I've used WD-40 on.
You got to get real oil in them. You know what I mean? You got to squeeze it in there and get it in them and move it the parts around and let it soak in. You know. And other guys, they literally will just douse the reel in WD-40 and look, there's elements of WD-40 that's considered bunker oil, menhaden oil.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's in there. I mean, did you ever see a guy that actually sprays their lures down with WD-40?
I used to do that back in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't particularly. I've never done it. I don't know if I buy it, but I mean, I've seen it many times. So, but. You know, it's funny, all the little things you learn along the way, but you know, one thing stands true. You have to take care of them.
So John, are you taking care of your own or are you bringing them into Tightlines?
So I'm going to be guilty of it. I don't take care of anything when it comes to that point. I actually just put a little bit of oil in it myself. Usually, Chris, you know, I buy the expensive reels off. They come with, usually they come with oil. So, you know, every couple trips, you just do a few drops in it and you're good to go. Thankfully, some of the reels that I buy, they're low maintenance, so I don't have to deal with that too much until something catastrophically happens. Then I'll be taking it to Chris. But for the most part, I got a bunch of throwaway reels myself too, and it's just why bother? I got 3-4 seasons out of it. Throw it in the garbage. Go buy another one.
And I get it. I get all that, and like, you know, I know you like to buy accurates, and you know, we saw a lot of accurates, and accurates. One of the best there is, if not the best. So, and you know, they have interesting. You spend that money, and I think they even will maintain the reel for you.
Yeah, it's
you can send it back in. Yeah,
it's 2 years for free when you get it.
2 years.
Yeah,
right.
And then after that, they're pretty good actually about it. Yeah, and that's the only reason why I don't bring them down to you is
Yeah, sure. Why not?
You ship it back to them. You pay the shipping, which is usually $5-10. Yeah. Service it, it's like $40, and usually they'll call you up if there's something wrong with it. They'll replace the parts on the spot for free. So
100%.
Their service is great.
It's phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, that's what you're paying for, man.
Yeah,
you know, it's a $400 or $500 reel. You know.
Yeah.
Well, you can be sure I'd be bringing that in, John. I'm going to urge you right now. As soon as you're putting those on the kayak, you need to take them in to get serviced because you're so close to the water. It's getting continuous water into those things. It's going to shorten that lifespan.
Well, plus a lot of them go over.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many go over on a kayak. I used to kayak fish. I know it's just like you said, you're low to the water. You got no beam. None. So it's like it's right here, and they go in and you grab and then you get them back. But you just gotta, especially. I mean, I can't stress enough if that reel ever hits the water. The right thing to do is actually to take a bucket of water when you get back and let it just sit in water.
Yeah.
Right. Like just dunk the reel and let it sit, come back the next day and let it flush that out. Then you go in and oil everything. But I can't tell you how many times people just brought in a reel where they were like, all right, this Shimano Torium or this Penn Squaw or this Fathom, spent $200 on it, dropped it in the water. 2 weeks later, they bring it and it is green.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, just from hitting the water once. I mean, and I'm like, did you do anything? No, we didn't. Well, you might need gears now.
Right.
Because you didn't. You know what I mean? So, like, I can't stress enough, like, you got to do that quick when it happens. And it's going to happen to every single one of us.
So I want to bring up, get your perspective on this. I talked to a guy who owns a real warranty center in Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a big one. It's one of the biggest in the country. And we're talking about the sealed reels and the band stalls.
Uh-huh.
He made the point that, they're sealed and they will rust out as fast as anything else if it gets dunked. Yeah, and the Van Stall guys get really mad at me when I say that, but
it's true.
I think what they don't realize is on these spinning reels, you have where the spool sits, the whatever it's called, the rod.
You're talking about the pinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a pinion seal there.
Yes, there's a seal, right. but salt gets into that seal. So if you have a Van Stall, if you have one of these sealed reels like the MQ, the Daiwa MQ is apparently sealed. You still need to drop it in that fresh water and go get it cleaned to protect that investment.
100%. That's not, and I've been through this many times, and I've seen this so many times. I mean, I can't tell. I've seen Van Stalls that were, and nothing against Van Stall. I mean, it's a hell of a reel. I mean, it's a phenomenal reel. But, you know, I've seen where the entire interior needed to be redone. I mean, gears, everything completely rusted. I've actually, if you go back in my posts on Tightlines, you'll see, because I point it out. I actually say to people, look, guys, this is a Van Stall. As much as you guys like to think that they're bulletproof, you know, this guy didn't clean it. He didn't take care of it. He didn't maintain it. And this is what you're left with. And, you know, that's $400 later to repair.
Right.
The seal kits alone are $150 just to reseal them when you clean them. So you can imagine, after buying gears and everything else that you need to replace in these reels, and then buying the sealed kit, you're at $400.
Right.
So I mean, they're not. But nothing is. It wouldn't work right if it has to get air too.
Yes.
So you see what I mean? Like, it's a hell of a sealed reel compared to anything else. But you know, you got to maintain it.
Yeah, I had to bring that up because I get a lot of people hating on me when I say that. And it's like, yes, it's sealed, but it's not 100%. Nothing is going to be 100% and still work. And they get mad. And I just tell them, just think about how the motion on a spinning reel is.
Yeah.
You can see there's at least one spot where it will get in. It'll get in through that grease, and they don't believe me.
100%. Right.
So we found out live, our first time talking.
I've seen it all, man. Yeah. I mean, we do a lot of reel repairs every year, and it's just, it's never ending. And I can say that nothing surprises me at this point when it comes to reels that, haven't been maintained. And I can't stress enough that if you think you're just going to buy a Van Stall and it's just going to take care of itself, you're wrong. It's not.
Yeah,
it's better than anything for sure. As far as as far as being sealed, and the max drag them reels put out on top of being sealed is just it's astronomical. But you can't. It won't take care of itself.
Right. All right. So we talked about some maintenance. One thing I want to spend most of the time, because most of the questions we get are about reels. A lot of people feel that they have the rods, but I want to talk about rods real quick. Calling this a 101 stream, and I wanted to at least make sure that people understand a little bit about the fishing rods before they go out and buy them, and they understand exactly what they're buying. So I'm just going to put this up here. This is from Mudhole Tackle. If it shows up. So there are a couple of things just by way of level setting for everybody that's watching. When you're looking at a rod, you have a couple of things to really think about. You have the action and you have the power, are really the two main things. John, feel free to jump in on this, or Chris, but I think people really need to understand, first of all, the action, which is what's up on the screen. It's really talking about where the rod bends when you put a load on it. Whether it's just jerking the lure or setting the hook. Setting the hook is really where I think it makes the biggest impact. And you can see extra fast action would be equivalent. The way that I think about it is extra fast hook set. So you get the power quickly. And you can see where the rod bends. It's almost all the way up at the tip there on the far left. You have the fast action. It's a little bend further down. The moderate action and the slow action, which is darn near impossible to find unless you're fishing ugly sticks or ultralights. Nowadays, people don't like the slow action, but they get more forgiving as you go from fast down to slow. They get more forgiving on the hook set. So as an example, I think typically, and this is, some people may disagree, if you're doing topwater or crankbaits, you're going to want something like a moderate. Because it's forgiving. It's harder to rip it out of their mouth when they're striking at it than it is with a fast or an extra fast. You can you move that tip and that lure is moving quick out of there. But But I think people need to understand that. Do you guys have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, stiffness plays a huge part. It's so hard to generalize 4 categories for rods because there's so many types of fish that all bite differently, and there's so many different styles of fishing. Like, for instance, like you look at a slow action at wobbly, but yet if you're running a bunker spoon on a troll, you need that wobble to make that lure dance, right? So if you get an 8-foot, whether it's Tony Maja or a custom rod or whatever 8-foot bunker spoon rod you're looking at, it's always going to be super, super slow action. And that's typical to not very many other styles of fishing. Nobody wants that. But in that particular case, that lure is you need that to make that wobble occur. So when you get something like that versus, like, let's say you're throwing, SP minnows or whatever off a bridge, you're certainly going to want more of a fast action. And your load points are going to be all different according to like what type of lure you're using. So it's not even so much like the fish grabs it. It's more about how the lure presents itself. Right. I always say, like, create a strike. You can talk. I think you've had Chris Matusin on your show before, right?
Yes.
We always talk about it. And like, I always say it as like a phrase for Tightlines. We always say we're trying to create a strike at all times, right? So depending on which lure you choose, there's a rod built for that. If you're throwing plugs, you're going to use something a little more fast. You might not need it extra fast, but it might be in the moderate to fast action. But then the stiffness plays a major role in that too. So it's so hard to talk about like what of those 4 categories is exactly going to work for each lure without like holding the rod, mounting a reel to it, see how that's balanced, and then figuring out what lure you're going to use, if that helps any.
Yeah, and I think that the fishing industry doesn't do us any favors because you have extra fast, moderate, and slow.
There's so much.
But then you also have
so much choice.
Yeah, then you have the power. So then you have the ultralight, light, medium, medium, heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy.
And that's why when somebody walks in my store, the first thing I ask them, like, what are we doing here? Are we bait fishing? Are we lure fishing? Are you going to be on a bridge? Are you going to be fighting wind? Are you going to be using braid? Are you going to be using there's so many elements that people don't understand that play a role in what rod you use. And rods are very important. You know what I mean? Like, so you can get a good, we were talking about like different price range reels, right? Like you can, like, there's nothing wrong with a nice Pursuit or a Fierce. Yeah, it's not going to be a Penn Slammer or a Van Staal, right? But when it comes to a rod, you really, if you're going to spend money somewhere, I almost feel like you spend it in the rod. And I know a lot of people think opposite of that. People think like you want the smoothness of the reel, but the reels are made so well from $80 to $200, where the difference in the gap between the $80 and $200 rods are much more, it's much more obvious.
Yes.
Of where these load points and stiffnesses are. I'm sure, John, you understand. I mean, you build rods, so you understand more than anybody what I'm talking about. Yeah. But, and don't you agree that a lot of people at first glance or first thought, and people that are getting into fishing, don't they automatically assume like the reel is the most important thing, right?
100%. Everybody will say that time and time again. It's the reel. To me, you got to have a balance of both.
You got to have balance, the rod's very important. It really is.
It is.
And that's why I say to people, like, I take them one by one. Let's talk about what we're doing here. How long have you been fishing? What kind of fishing are we doing here? And people will come in and they say, oh, can I get one rod to do everything? No, you can't. It's impossible. Like, I could get you in something that, maybe if you're not going to be an avid fisherman, you might do it a few times a year. Yeah, I can put you in something, right? But like, I can't say to somebody you're going to use a trolling rod to catch, or let's say a bunker snag. Let's say the fish are blitzing off the beach. There's bunker running. You're going to have a heavy snag rod. I can't even put that in the same category as a lure thrower, right? Even though they're kind of lures, right? They're snags. They're not decorated lures, but they're, it's a totally different style. So there's so many different elements to this. You just have to take each scenario. And that's why I'm saying this is only because like it looks so easy according to this graph, right? 4 styles, pick one, right? It's so much harder than that.
It really is. Like I can totally agree with that. Just because, Rich, you know it. We've discussed it when I go and do a couple builds for you. It's I wanted to do this, but I also want to use it for this. It's hard to find that happy medium of the road. But hey, you do the best you can with what you can.
Of course. So of course. And not to say like you got to have 100 combos, but there's a time and place for each type. And like I said, people that buy like going back to that bunker spoon rod, that rod is used for one thing and one thing only, 100%. And that's for bunker spoon, nothing else ever. So I tell people, when you buy this $500 combo, be prepared to leave it there until striped bass fall next December in South Jersey.
Yep.
Because you ain't going to use it unless you're going north.
100% agreed.
And that's it. That's it. That's just the way it is. So, and it's worth it to some people, and you just be honest and teach people. That's it. But
I got to chime in here a little bit. So John, John does make rods that I use, and we do have those conversations. And what people don't realize is when I fish with some of these rods, if I use the same one for different species, I'm making an adjustment in the way that I fish in order to use that rod. If I don't have one that's specifically for that purpose, and it makes it harder in a lot of cases. I know that I'm not going to be able to work the rod the right way or the way that I normally would if I had the appropriate rod. But going to rods versus reels, and it drives. It's like one of those things that it immediately hits me every time I see it. I just got this reel. What's a good rod to pair with it? It's like, well, you did it backwards. When you really think about it, the reel. Let's take a spinning reel for example. So this, like right here. So I got this Stratic. The only thing this does is take in line.
Yep.
But when you're talking about the rod, that's doing the casting. You know what this does for casting? That it gets out of the way. That's it. You just flip the bail and it gets the hell out of the way so the line can go. So the rod's doing the casting, the rod's working the lure, the rod's setting the hook, the rod's fighting the fish, the rod's landing the fish, and the rod's what you're putting in your teeth when you're holding up the fish for your picture. As long as you have the drag on that reel.
Yeah, we don't need reels, actually, now that I think about it.
Go back old school with the old Sidewinder reels,
Yeah, click the Zebcos.
Yeah. I think I have one out here in the garage somewhere, actually.
Hey, Rich.
Crazy stuff here.
Rich, real quick, let's backtrack real quick to one of the questions from James Flynn about a couple of rod and reel choices for trolling striper. Since we were on that, let's just go through that real quick. If Chris, you want to take that, that'd be great.
Yeah. So when I get asked these questions, then it becomes, what are we trolling, right? So you can put this in different classes. Again, bunker spoon is all on its own. It's going to be not that the reel, you can offset the reel, but the rod is going to be all on its own. Whether you're going to use I'm just throwing out names here, a Shimano Torium or a Takota, and you keep it a little lower end like that, or a Penn Squall or whatever. Then you move into your Avets and your Sieglers and your Accurates being high end, and the reels for trolling can be kind of interchangeable for the most part. It's the rods is where the difference comes in. So when faced with somebody who's, let's say, all right, Chris, I'm not going to bunker spoon. And a lot of guys don't bunker spoon, right? Majority of people don't, but the guys who catch big fish do. So if you take that up and that's going to be your thing, then you're going to want to buy a bunker spoon rod. But everything else falls under, let's say, umbrella rigs, let's say mojos, and we're going to say stretches, right? Okay, so those three items probably are your top three things that you're buying nowadays, and especially over the last 5 seasons, let's say. They've all had their times, right? And as of the last 2 years, you're probably your umbrella rigs. So you need, fishing umbrella rigs, you need something that has power. As far as a rod's concerned, you don't need a ton of looseness in the tip like a bunker spoon rod, but you need strength, because the drag of that umbrella rig combined for 3 layers of umbrellas and then your shads, there's a lot of drag against that reel. So you need a reel that has a decent amount of drag, and then you need a rod that can support it. So if I'm just going to throw something out like that I would sell in a store, would be like, let's say, if I'm going lower end, I'm going to maybe put somebody in a TLD. Okay. Like TLD has been around forever, right? It hasn't been changed. It's tried and true. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. And then I might put you into, if we're going Shimano, maybe a Talavera if you wanted to go a little more high end, then you can go into like there's a TLD rod that's made for the TLDs, and then there's Takota also will go on to can't remember exactly the name of the model I'm thinking of, but so many different variations of what you can do. If we go into Penn, then you go into a Fathom or you want a round conventional reel. Only reason I'm saying round and not baitcast is because of the line capacity. You need something that's going to hold line. You're running 50 yards off the back of the boat. You got 50 yards of line right there. Then you got to fight a fish and have drag. So you need something that has a decent amount of drag, that I'm going to say anywhere from minimally 15 pounds, minimally to 25 pounds of drag, right? Minimally, like in that area, 20 pounds. Okay. When you get into accurates like John uses and like I use, that they're dragged out pretty strong up in the high 20s and low 30s for these reels. And again, you're going to pay for those, but it all depends on the person and what they're fishing for, fishing with, what type of artificial they're going to be trolling that day. And that's kind of where I make the determination based on also how much they want to spend, what their budget is, right? So, there's so many components to this, and you got to take it customer by customer and person by person. But I'd be happy to help. People email me, text me all the time. I give my cell phone to every one of my customers. I have thousands of phone numbers in my cell phone, and John will tell you, like, I give it to I don't care if you spend $5 or $5,000 in my store. They all get treated the same. So, and I give them my cell phone. So my phone doesn't stop ringing. I'm sitting here with Michelle, and she can attest to that because she's got to deal with it in my life all the time. But but anyway, point is, if anybody has any specifics that they want to talk about, whether it's through an email or coming into the store, I'd be happy to help anybody figure out what's right for them.
It's funny. So John, this summer, he said, you got to call Chris. Let me give you his number.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can just get the number online.
And
he's like, no, I'll give you his cell. I'm like, are you sure he'd like that? He's like, I'm telling you, he doesn't care. Well, now I know. You definitely don't care then.
No, I don't care. I announce it. It's a part of my business plan. You know what I mean? It really is. It's like, I want to be friends with my customers, not just customers. You know what I mean? I want them to call me. I want them to text me, and they know they can, and that's why they buy it from me.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
You know what I mean? They're just the facts. So, but it's difficult sometimes, but I love what I do, and I love helping people, and I love the memories that they make, and especially people with families, and you're bringing your kids into this thing that's going to last forever, and your photos last forever, and it's right. I mean, it's what you live for, right?
Yeah, it's I love that you do that. I actually do that. There's a bunch of people in the stream right now in the chat that have my cell number. I do it now. Not that I'm doing business like you are, but
well, to whatever extent.
Yeah,
it's the way you do it. It's the way you want it to be, right?
Yeah, because you want to know the people.
You're fine with it. Yeah,
you want to know the people. You want to be available.
And I want to meet new people, and I want to help people. So
all right. Well, now that I heard it, I'll take it off the do not call list in my.
Right, exactly.
I'm thinking I'm going to call this guy for the first time. He's going to be like, "Who the hell gave me my number?
Who is this guy?"
Oh man.
No, I'm happy to help in any way. But yeah, as far as that guy's question, what was the exact question again, John? As far as for trolling, like
it was just rod and reel choices for trolling stripers, and then the comment was mojos and umbrella rigs. Yeah, just to chime in on that too, Chris. It's for me, I did a lot of trolling with Striper Jim. Obviously, he's the one that introduced me to you, actually, and Hollywood Harold. The old Shimano Takotas before they did that bait caster look. Those guys were using that.
100%.
They're by far the best reel that you could use
for the
trolling.
Money. Too.
Yeah, for the money. For
them 700s that you guys use and Jim uses. He runs wire on those.
Yeah.
And that they become his bunker spooning rods. And, if anybody knows him, he probably lives for fishing more than anybody I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, I mean, the dude said he was giving up striper, and there he is with probably another 500 striper again this winter. You know,
I know, but but you're right. But yeah, as far as that answer to that question, I would say, a lot of it has to do with the stiffness of that rod. As far as what it can handle, where the load is. So when I, like if I was to meet that guy in person, we'd hold a few rods. I'd tell him to bend it till he can break it. And I'd say, if you break it, I bought it. You know what I mean? Like I'm giving you permission in my store to bend that thing till it breaks. And you can't, and if it's the right rod, it can't break. So the point is that you got to really take it scenario by scenario and feel what's right. And some guys will be like, dude, you got a shorter guy who's like, man, you know what? I don't want an 8-foot rod. I don't want a 7.5-foot rod. And then you'll get a tall guy who's into it. So there's so many variables. I mean, it's just insanity. So what I do is I put a few in their hand. What feels right to you? Do you like it lighter? Do you like it stiff? Does it feel better when I bend it here? Like, so you gotta really take this on a case by case basis.
And it's important for people to remember that, you have the ultralight, you have the heavy rods, and then you have the extra fast and the fast. There is no industry standard for any of that. So a Shimano is different than any other brand.
Totally
St. Croix. Actually, St. Croix are different than St. Croix in the different lines.
And their new line is different than anything they've done in the past too.
Yeah. So
it's like, it's a feeling, right? And that's what I say to people. And you have to feel it. You know what I mean? And it might be wrong for me and right for you. So that's all I'm trying to do is find that perfect love affair, right, between the guy and his equipment, because I can be honest in saying that when it feels right in your hands, you catch more fish. When you're confident with your lure, when you're confident with your rod, that's why we go back to the same thing, even though we have 10 billion other ones that we don't use, right? Yep. Because we always have faith in that. And when you have faith in it, it just magically works.
It does.
John
made me a flounder rod like that. He's like, John made me a flounder rod. He's like, you're not going to like it. And I fish with that. I love it.
You love it.
I absolutely love that freaking rod. Yeah. And it's so much so that I was forcing tog season on it because I didn't want to stop using it. So like I said, I was fishing it different.
I'll tell you, as a builder, and I'm not a builder, but I've seen it. My dad's a builder, and John's a good builder. And I know a lot of good builders. A builder, there's nothing better they can hear that you love something they built you.
Yeah,
that's why you do it. I mean, more than even you catching your own.
Yeah,
it's because you can make it for yourself, but when you make it for somebody else and it's their favorite rod, then it's like, wow, this is like my dream come true, because I'm doing what I love and it's helping people. It's not helping them, but it's your go-to rod. Right. So it's like, wow, that really is a connection, right?
I mean, the biggest thing is about that rod, the specific rod he's talking about, the reason that feeling was so much better, like you just said, it's like, wow, I did something good. I helped someone. They love it. It's awesome. Yeah. We said, let's pick the bottom of the barrel crap that Muddle has to offer. Just so he has a kayak rod, say it goes overboard, don't care about it.
Doesn't matter.
And he says he absolutely loves it. So you know what? That means the world to me.
That means everything to you as a builder. I mean, that's what you live for, dude. That's what you build for.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what you build for.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference. I have nicer rods, from John, and you can tell the difference, right?
Shit. It's components,
but
right?
Man, the point was let's get it look at all the things at the lower end. And let's find something that can work for kayaks, because if somebody loses it, I'd rather have them lose $100 to $150 rod than a $300 to $400 custom.
Of course, 100%.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of kayak fishing, huh?
I do a lot.
Is that your main thing?
It is now. It used to be, I used to have a boat and it was all boat, and then I got rid of the boat and I was like, I'll be good on the shore. And then I was like, I hate walking.
Well, there's something special about kayak fishing.
I love it.
The peacefulness of it. Once you're out there, it's just something different. And I can totally relate to it.
Yeah. And it's great.
I grew up freshwater fishing, most of my life. And that's where I feel like I learned to be a lure fisherman, right? Yeah. I mean, freshwater fisherman, you fish tournaments, and I used to fish them, and you're there's a feel to lure fishing, okay, versus bait fishing. You know what I mean? They're both great in their own way, in their own sense. But when you're throwing a lure and create a strike. Like that's always what my line is: create a strike, and it's all about a rod, reel, you, and what you're throwing, and any way you can mimic a bait fish to create that strike. And I just feel like that's where the heart of a lot of fishermen can relate.
Yeah, I agree. We have here's a good question. I'll take a stab at it, and then Chris or John, if you want to correct me or add in. So John's asking, where does the ounce that they're rated for actually fit into all of this? So that's talking specifically not about the action, but about the power on the rod.
Power of the
and it fits in. It fits in. This is the most accurate thing you're going to get, because this is the manufacturer saying, look, don't throw anything over 3 ounce on this. Now, we all know that a rod rated up to 3 or 4 ounces can probably throw 8 ounces. But they're just not going to stand behind it and say, we'll replace it if it breaks at that point.
Exactly. Right.
But it fits in with the power, John. It's not the action. So you can have a slow action, 8 ounce, and it's going to be much different than a moderate or a fast or an extra fast. So that's where it is. It's just on the power or the backbone of the rod.
Correct. Yeah. And when you get up into that 3/4 to 8 ounce rod, you're typically looking at a bait stick at that point. I mean, you're not gonna throw your average crankbait or lure and expect to have any action out of that lure. That's going to be a heavier broomstick type, not broomstick, but you know what I'm saying, that stiffer type of rod. Yep. So that I can almost look at ratings and know exactly what you're going to fish for. Now they're very different by manufacturer. All manufacturers. Then you become like, anybody get into slow pitch fishing yet?
This year. This year I am
working on that this year.
I mean, that is just another world. I mean, because the ratings are so different from what you're used to, and you can literally, like my guy Dave at the store says it. He's like, Chris will tell you to bend the rod and it's going to go between your legs and out the door, because that's how crazy these things are, right? They don't break. They're just unbelievable. You know what I mean? So that you start looking at things like that and you're like, wow, I really don't know anything about this, because it's just a whole different world.
Yeah.
But I can say that, like, if somebody comes in and says, Chris, I want to have fun and I want to catch fish throwing SP minnows or mag darters today, then I'm going to put them in a 3/4 to 1.5 ounce rod that has moderate to fast action, so that he can dance that lure and create a strike.
Yep.
But I'm not, so to make it easier for him to understand, you're not going to use a 3-4 ounce rod that has a huge backbone in the middle of the rod, and expect that you're going to be able to move that lure correctly, if that makes it easier to understand.
Yeah, I think it does. But so here's a question that we had in one of the previous streams. The question was, when would somebody want to use a conventional versus a bait caster versus a spinning rod? And you talked about one of the situations, for actual real trolling. Now, I'll troll with a bait caster or a spinning rod, but I'm in a kayak.
Mm-hmm.
It's much different.
That's totally different.
If I'm going trolling, I am 100% always going to use a conventional, unless it's for mahi and I want it out there just so I can reel it real quick and toss it at something going by.
Well, that's casting, sure. Right.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. A lot of it has to do with a low pro. So a lot of it has to do, honestly, with line capacity. You know what I mean? So it's not like even like the bait cast reels today are made so high quality. It's not like they don't have the drag to handle them, because they do. These new Tranxes and these new Lexas and all these high-end bait cast reels that have 20-some pounds of drag have the drag, if not more than your average Torium or Dakota. It's just that they won't hold the line. So when you're trolling umbrellas and you're 75 yards out, and you have no room to run a fish, you're going to need a bigger reel. And not to mention, the other part of it becomes the reel seats on the rods, right, John? I mean, so at that point, so that plays a major role into it too. You're not going to put a little low-profile reel and expect the rod to balance right when you're using a rod that's going to be rated for 4 ounces that you're going to troll mojos or something heavy with. So you won't have the correct balance, and you won't have the proper positioning of the strength of the reel. Like the way that round bait caster sits up high, it's entering a guide that sits higher, right? Versus a low profile bait cast reel that are using small guides. So there's again, like I've been saying, it's just there's so many different little things. But I would say what's becoming really popular is using low profile bait reels for jigging, like jigging reefs. Look how many guys fluke fish out in the reef now. Look how many guys sea bass fish with low profile reels, and they're making them stronger and better. And they make these big 400 size models now. So that is changing a little bit. But when it comes to trolling, that's kind of a hard thing because of how low that reel sits to comparatively the upper first guide of that rod that you're going to need to fight a 50-pound bass. So it's almost, it can't mathematically work.
Right. And I think a lot of people overlook that, you know, if it's coming out low profile.
That's a huge thing. Yeah. And like you said, if you're going to be trolling for mahi, you could get away with doing, you know, if you're trolling the top with a little dolphin magnet or a little Williamson lure or something, you know what I mean? It's super light. And it's skipping across the top for the most part, right? Or you're skipping or you're throwing either squids or you're throwing little mahi lures into the pots.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Yep. So that's never. It's not really trolling. You can troll through them with a Clark spoon, but they're little teeny light things that have no weight to them. So you can use super light rods that are super low profile to fit a low profile reel, if that makes sense.
And any situation where you would recommend, you know, before buying any outfit that you would go towards the bait casters, the low profile?
I mean, I grew up freshwater fishing, so I was always the kid at 8 years old who was trying to throw a bait caster from 20 yards and pitch it into a bucket. You know what I mean? Just to get my aim down, because we would pitch docks, and when you're in tournament fishing, every cast counts, and you're ripping that lure under docks, and you need to have aim. So I grew up on that. So yes, I tend to try to use one anytime I can. But it's not always right for everybody. I've been doing it for a long time. And the guys that are getting into bait casting, like a lot of people are, they're like, dude, I don't, like, I tried this thing and I bird nested in 1 second. I don't understand, like, what you're even doing here, right? I mean, you know, how long did it take you to get used to throwing a bait caster?
Me?
Yeah.
I never used them until last year. I can toss them.
And so what's your thoughts on how it worked? How did it work for you on the first try?
You know,
and what were you using? Did you use an Accurist?
Yes, an Accurist S3.
I figured it's like entry. It's a great reel to start.
Yep.
It has that twitch and switch that you can back off the bait.
Right.
And did you get it down pretty easily, or did it take a little time?
It takes a little time.
It takes time, right?
Yeah.
It's like kind of like I've had people come back and they're like, dude, you're right, man. Like, I don't know if I should have bought this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I try to tell you, like, you got to put time into this. It's not, you're just not going to learn to. You're just not going to learn to throw one because your finger is the clutch.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, where the real spinning reel does it for you, your thumb is the clutch now. So, yeah, of course, there's timing and when to let go on a cast and when to ease up, when to give it more tension, and how fast does that bait cast? What's the free fall off that bait cast reel?
Right.
Like, where's that adjustment set at?
Yeah, as you got to have those brakes on.
Yeah, as you get better, you can let it free fall naturally, right? To the point where you let go and it drops straight to the ground, or there's a brake holding that back, giving you an advantage, right? But you might not get the castability. You're going to learn how to use it, but you're not going to get the precision because there's a secondary brake, not your thumb.
Right.
So as you get better, it goes from this to this, and it evens out now, and you get better because now you're starting to realize like what you need to do, and then you can put it where you want and not have the brake on. So the guys who are real good at bait casters, they don't use the brake. You know what I mean? They just rip that thing and they can send it a mile.
Right.
So, and it's just like throwing a conventional off the beach if you're a surf guy. I mean, certain guys, you ever see a guy that just doesn't use spinning reels off the surf?
That's how I started. I hate it.
Right. I mean,
hate it.
Yeah, right. And people love it or hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, because you don't give it time, right? You're like, why would I do that when I can throw a spinning reel 100 yards?
Yeah.
Right. So, and I get it, you know. But then you get these old timers that come in, with their souped up Penn Peerless and Penn big fat pens that are totally dragged. Right, there you
Penn
go. Right
Peerless.
There. Yeah, totally dragged out, and they changed the drag washers, and they upgrade the gearing, and they can cast these things further than you could dream of casting your spinning reel.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're gods to me. Like I can't throw them like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not that guy. No.
Yeah, no, it's just not me. But again, there's a lot. Again, everything comes down to the person. You know what I mean? And it's so hard. I'll try to tell people all the time. It's so hard to just make general statements about what you need. You know what I mean? I take it one by one, and let's hear where you want to go with this.
Yeah, as far as the conventional surf fishing, that's how I learned. My grandfather, he gave me a big long surf rod with an old Penn, some level one, I don't know, some old thing back in the 70s, and with a whole bunch of mono on it. And I go to the beach and I cast it, and I get the bird nest, and and back then you couldn't just rip it off and get new line. It was Granddad saying, "You better fix that." So you don't tangle it for the next.
It was different times.
For the next 3 hours.
Or put it this way, you ain't using it again.
Right. Well, exactly. That was exactly.
You're not getting the invite again.
Yep. So you'd have to spend an hour doing that, and then you get your second cast.
Now, were you throwing like super long? Were they like 12, 13 foot rods?
No, he was nice. Because I was just little at that time. He was,
right.
It was probably
throwing 8 footers or 9 footer. Yeah.
It's probably an 8 foot, which is long enough.
Sure.
But I learned how to do it, and I also learned that I don't like it. I've since learned that when the guys come with those big rods and they make me look like a fool because they throw it 150 yards, I just go right next to them and I catch something right at their feet. They're out past the fourth bar, which sometimes is critical, depending on where you are. And I'm in the trough right at their feet, and I'm catching something.
Right at their feet. That's true. It's not always necessarily the distance.
No, right? But sometimes it is.
I know,
and I'm not that guy that's going to hit that.
And other times they're right on your kneecaps.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That's the beauty of fishing, man. You just don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, 100% agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and then the spinning rod, I use the spinning reel more than anything. I'll use it for pretty much everything. I've made a change in the past couple of years. So now I'm using the conventional or the bait caster for jigging because I can still toss it. Like I said, I can still do it. I can toss a bait caster. I am much more accurate with a spinning rod. So if I'm flipping docks, I'm actually using a spinning rod because I cannot flip a bait caster.
I got you. Yeah, it takes time. Now let me ask you this: are you a tog fisher?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, do you tog fish with a spinning reel? This is always a great question. It's an interesting question to me because I've seen some good tog fishermen that fish spinning reels. I mean, I've seen it, but it's not me.
I used to. I don't anymore. I just prefer I actually use a bait caster for that.
You do use a bait caster. Are we talking land? Are we talking about like rock fit, like jetty fishing? Or are we talking boat?
Anything.
Boat fishing, like sod banks, or let's say a reef.
I'll fish bait caster on all of them.
Well, anything. Right?
Any of them. I have a Squall 300 low profile. And I also have the Accurist, which the max drag on that is 18 pounds, which is a little light if you get the bigger ones.
Yeah, but it's still, it'll do the job for the most part.
But I definitely like the Squall a lot more.
So what a lot of people don't realize about what's really important about a conventional or bait cast reel, which a lot of people don't even look at, is the line per crank and your gear ratio, right? So, you have these winches that are geared low, or like, let's say a 4.3 to 1. And then you have these super fast ones that are 7.1, but they have I think that SPJ Accurate, John, if I'm not mistaken, the 300 has 38 inches per crank.
Yeah, I believe that's what.
And the 500 has 45 inches per crank, if I'm not mistaken. So let's think about this. That's 4 foot of line in one turn.
Yeah.
So when you're tog fishing and you're trying to rip that thing out of a jetty, or you're trying to rip it out of a reef or coral or whatever your bottom is, think about how effective that is. That at one crank, when you rip into that thing, one turn, you got them 4 foot out of the reef already. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, that's insane. It's hard to even fathom. 45 inches per crank.
That's why I got the Squall 300. I think it's either a 7.1 or a 7.3.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I think that,
out.
if I'm not mistaken, that one's got like 30 something, 3 or 4 or whatever.
Yeah,
insane. Yeah. I mean, that's 3 foot of crank. I mean, that's 3 foot of line per crank.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when people come in and are asking me questions about this stuff, that's why I always start with the species. You know, like, what are we doing here? I'm not going to suggest that to the guy who might just be trolling, you know, a mojo. Well, what's he need it for? He doesn't, right? He wants power. So if anything, you want that geared shorter. Right. You want it geared 4.3 or 5.0. That's a winch. It becomes a winch at that point, right? But it doesn't have the crank per turn. So there's so many things, again, about every single person and what they're doing and what type of fishing they're doing and what species they're fishing for. But you know, I've really seen people take it to a different level when I explain to them, like, you know, this is what that means. And, you know, if you're on top of structure and you got to rip that fish out, you want something that's got a serious crank per turn.
Yeah. Now, John, you have some accurates that have the more power. What is it, 5.6?
And that's still high. I mean, it's still relatively.
But you can see the difference between how the initial hook set and approach to a tog for John is much different than me. You know, because he fishes it differently because he has that more power, but he has less draw with every turn. So what you're doing, John, if I remember correctly, is as soon as you set, that never comes back down until you get about 5 or 6 real good cranks on there. Right. Whereas for me,
so that comes to preference. Yeah. So that's where I was going with that. Yeah. So the rod, and there's different styles. So like the guy who's going to rip that fish out and hold that rod up and not ever drop that rod down, he's basically bringing that fish out and then using the reel to crank it in.
Right.
So and there's different styles, and John's a really good tog fisherman, so he's on to something for the way he fishes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and again, that's why everything's so crazy different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, look at somebody who fishes a lot for tog and does well, and then you got the next guy who comes in who catches. I get guys that catch 15-pound tog on a daily, not daily, but on a seasonal basis, that catch a decent amount of them, and they all do it different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, who's right and wrong in the end? I mean, I can tell you things that make sense, but again, it comes down to holding it in your hand and you telling me about the way you fish.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's, I think that might be the biggest lesson with rods.
It is. This is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
The lesson is that there's no real lesson.
Yeah.
It's that, what works for you may be totally opposite. And, we're each our own person, like we are with our personalities, and we each have a personality for fishing. And the key is figuring out where it is.
Yeah. And I think that's
what I try to help people do. You know what I mean?
You got to be open to the changes too. When I started fishing with John, I totally changed my approach on tog. And I think John's changed his approach on fluke a little bit fishing 100%. With me. And the one thing that I haven't gotten to is I didn't get the reel with the same. So when I hook a tog, I have that 7.1 or 7.3. So I'm ripping and reeling twice, and then I'm fighting it like a regular fish because I'm way clear.
Yes.
So it's almost like maybe I'm a little lazier. But John's got this other
don't
thing.
Forget, John's a rod builder, so he wants to feel the rod.
Yeah.
So that's you got to take these things in consideration. He knows a lot about the rod that me and you may not. Right. So he understands the loads. He understands, like, you have to know that to be a rod builder.
Yeah.
So me and you might rely on a reel where he wants to feel the action of the rod, and his reel is secondary to his rod. Where me and you, Rich, we might use the rod as a secondary to our reel.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to, like you were just saying, is Rich, and I think you could tell that it's with those Rod Geeks blanks. That's a sister company of St. Croix. They're in a composite blank. But as thick of a baseball bat of a rod that is, being a moderate fast rod, you can feel every bite through that rod. And it's just absolutely amazing. Again, it's knowing the materials, the load, and it does take a big fact in the rod building.
It does.
But it does. Even then, like with the stock rods, just like buying a rod off the shelf, you do need to have an understanding of what that rod's doing. And that's
100%.
Again, at least that's one of the things. I think one of the things you showed me was the OTI rods when I came in. Those slow pitch rods. Yeah. You were just like a kid in a candy store when they came in. You're like, dude.
I tell people break it. Go ahead, try.
You're like, you got to check this out, dude. Just bend the hell out of this rod.
Bend it and try. I literally tell people, snap it.
Yeah.
And it's not happening. Right here. It ain't happening. No. It's never happened. I've sold probably 500-600 of them. Yeah. It's never happened once.
No. That's like Bayside Dave said to me when he was on. He's like, when you go, I said, I know I always hold back on my long cast. Everybody I never go 100%. And he said, you have to try to break that rod. And I'm thinking, you probably throw better rods than I do.
I literally have customers that, they tell me straight out. They're like, dude, I'm buying this rod and I'm trying to break it when I fish. Yeah. They're like, I want to put this rod through. And I'm like, I can give them an honest opinion. Certain rods, I'm like, dude, that rod's going to snap. I can tell you that right now. And so other rods I have more faith in, but you never really know. But I have a lot of faith in that OTI rod only because of how many demonstrations I've done in the store. And I've just seen them, and it's that's what again, back to that slow pitch. That's that thing that I can't understand. Them rod, the way that the composite that is used for those rods, that you can bend them in half. Basically, you can bend them in half. I mean, it's insane. I never saw anything like it. So it kind of defied all normal rod building or rod acceptance. You know what I mean? It's something that's wild. So this year we took on Temple Fork. I don't know if you. I'm sorry, Temple Reef.
Oh, Temple Reef.
Temple Reef is it's a high end slow pitch rod company. They're like $500-600, and they make 4 different powers. Same thing, but they're like a high end version of like that OTI. They're all slow pitch. So we'll have the slow pitch. And then we have another company. Did you ever hear of Goofish?
Yeah.
Tough to find. And that's like a lower end like OTI type of slow pitch rod. I don't know enough about it yet. I did order them because I get a lot of people asking for them. So we'll see how that is. Johnny Jigs is doing. They have some really nice slow pitch stuff. And then a Jig Pro. These are all lines that we're taking in right now, and also selling the slow pitch jigs for them. Slow pitch jigging is becoming huge up north. Like it was really big in Florida, and like for grouper fishing, and like you can catch just these monster fish on these super light SPJ 300s with these crazy slow pitch rods that are just bend and like you just tire the fish out. And it's becoming really big for sea bass in here. I mean, it really is. It's really neat to catch something that, to catch big fish on a light, super light rod that is, that has, the action's real strange on them slow pitch. It almost does have like a slow action. If you go back to your chart, like you put up, like it's far right because of how it bends, but they just don't break.
But it's a little different though. A lot of people would think ugly stick, right? Because ugly stick, you can bend those all the way around too, but it's not the same.
Listen, I have guys that come in and put Van Stalls on ugly sticks.
Yeah.
I know it sounds crazy, but I mean, this is again, back to everything. It's just preference, and they swear by them. I mean, you know what I mean?
Because they don't break.
It's not for me, but they swear by them. So who am I to say what's right or wrong?
Well, to prove a point here with those rods and just the capabilities of them, Chris, a guy that I fish with every so often, he comes into your shop. Nate, he caught a 11.5-pound tog on one of those OTI slow pitch rods and a Siegler reel. So I mean, right there, I
have even a crazier one. How about the guy? My buddy Zach has footage of him catching a 45-pound yellowfin on it.
Yeah, and I believe it. It's unbelievable.
On an OTI slow pitch rod.
Yeah, guys are catching amberjacks on them down in Florida. Like you said, it was a big thing down in Florida, and now we're seeing it up here. It is truly amazing.
Yeah, I ordered a lot of those SPJs this year. I mean, the Accurate makes one heck of a, I saw all these brands, and I'm not being partial to anybody, but I can say that most of the serious if we're talking rods and reels, most of the serious slow pitch jigging guys, they won't use anything but an Accurate SPJ reel. They won't even look at another reel. And they've been doing it for years before this even became popular. And they were like, dude, I won't touch another reel. Like, and you know, so there's got to be some merit to that. I mean, Accurate's a heck of a company, but that slow pitch reel is geared differently. It has that huge handle. And it's, like I said, the 300, the little mini is 38 inches per turn, and the 500 is 45 inches per turn.
Wow.
So, you know, they're just ripping fish out of the depths just fast. Like, boom, boom. All right, 4, 8, 12, 16, like 20 feet and 4 cranks. You know what I mean? It's just insane. So, but yeah, that's becoming a really, really big thing. And I can just tell by the phone calls. I mean, the last 3 days I've had guys calling for SPJs. What slow pitch rods what jigs you carrying for slow pitch? So I think it's really going to blow out here. And you should look into building one, John.
I actually am. A friend of ours, Randy, who Rich fishes with quite often. I called him actually before the last live stream, and he was telling me, you know, the blanks he was using and everything. It's something I want to look into because he dropped Seeker. He loves using the Seeker blanks. I think that's what he said. He said they make by far one of the best slow pitch.
Really?
blanks.
Okay,
So,
that's nice to know.
Yeah,
I never knew.
Yeah, and I don't remember seeing Seeker in your shop, but if you do have a chance to get them.
I've had some Seekers in my shop. I should carry more Seekers. Seekers is a heck of a brand.
Yeah.
It really is. It's probably something I'll get a rack of them. But you know who else makes I'll tell you another brand, like while we're talking rods and reels that, you know, we saw a crazy amount of is like Jigging World.
Yes.
You know what I mean? For the money, they're I mean, you've seen them, you know, the Nexus for 140 is a hard rod to beat.
Yeah.
You know, for $140. I mean, you know, you can get a 1.4 for 104, $139.99. You can get a 1.4 ounce, a 2 to 6 ounce, or a 3 to 8 ounce.
Yeah.
In multiple colors. I mean, that's just they're good rod. I mean, yeah. Have I seen any ever break? Yeah, everything breaks. You know, people ask me, have you ever seen one break? I'm like, yeah, everything breaks. The only thing that hasn't broken was that OTI slow pitch rod that I've ever seen. So I have to bring that up again just for props for them. But so apparently Jigging World makes a silver bullet and a it's I can't remember if it's a Nighthawk, but they make a slow pitch rod that's apparently like a 250 range. So it's kind of in the middle, but that's supposed to be a heck of a rod as well for slow pitch. And I'm trying to think. So then there's that Temple Reef that I'm going to be getting, and then the OTI is tough to beat as well. But yeah, it's taken on a whole new thing. If any sea bass reef jigging guys, I don't know so many guys are fishing tog for them. Only because what I see the differences between a slow pitch rod and, like, let's say a true tog rod is the load point.
Yeah.
Where them slow pitch, you need that stiffness up top on the tog rod just because of that reef, getting it out of the reef. So you need that control, like you're saying, like rip that out and hold that up and get it out. And the slow pitch rod has less backbone where you kind of need it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we're planning to get on flounder with them this year. We're going to target a lot of flounder with them. Oh yeah, should be amazing.
Flounder should be really fun with them, man.
Yeah,
flounder's just pound for pound. It's a great fish, you know.
Yeah.
It's like funny. Like in our area, it's such a big fishery, so you almost kind of take it for granted, if you know what I mean. Like it's like fluke, yeah. And guys love flounder fishing. Don't get me wrong, but like for me, if you look at it, it's a nasty fish, man. It's a nasty, strong, crazy teeth,
aggressive,
like just a aggressive, flat, aerodynamic, crazy fish.
Yeah,
it really is. You know,
it's my favorite. It's my favorite.
Yeah,
to go after.
I get it, man. I totally get it. You know, it's such a big fishery for us.
For me, it's a toss up between fluke and tog, just because of both of them and how aggressive they are. You know,
They are. Tog's super aggressive, man. I mean, it's it's a different thing, though. You know what I mean? It's totally different.
And it's the thing is, it's just, I don't know which one I like more. Now, as I'm getting older, I've made it over the age of 30 now. So it's, I'm starting to become more of a fair weather fisherman. So it's like, do I really want to go tog fishing?
I get it. Like when it's good togging, it's now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like you can go now and catch some serious tog.
But it is cold.
Yeah. A guy caught, what, a 15-pounder, I think, on the Dauntless today?
Yeah.
Threw it back.
Yeah.
Cap.
How about this one? How about, have you guys, how about talking about a little bit about Sheep's Head?
So actually, with that being said, I'm going to jump off because I actually have to head to work.
Do what you got to do, bro.
Yeah, it's that time of the day, unfortunatally. So
yeah, I get it.
Thanks for swinging by, John.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah,
Chris,
good seeing you, John. Always a pleasure, bro.
Yeah, I'll be stopping in soon. All right, bud.
See you soon, buddy.
All right, bye-bye.
Yeah.
So the Sheep's Head. Yeah. So we both went for Sheep's Head a few times, although I wouldn't say we really dedicated days or hours to it. I came up without one. I've caught them in the past. I didn't spend nearly enough time. I have the issue that I gotta try to get a video when I go out on the water. So I want to try to get one and then expand to other species. Yeah. I've caught them as bycatch. Mainly tog fishing or striper fishing because I fish striper next to the bridge pilings quite often, and I've caught them there, but no, I have not.
They're becoming an interesting fishery.
Yeah.
What's interesting about the Sheep's Head in our area is that they're big. So, like, if you're a Florida fisherman, for instance, like down there, you catch them a dime a dozen. They're almost, I mean, it's crazy as it sounds, like down there, people consider them almost trash fish.
Yeah, they don't really care about them.
They don't care for them, and they're small. They don't get, but over here, they pull out these, 10 to 15, 14-pound Sheep's Head, and we weigh a lot of them. I mean, there's a lot of good anglers up by where we are off the Great Egg, and I see some big Sheep's Head being caught, and it's getting better. Like which is going to, and I'm sure Jim will talk about it next week. I'm sure at some point it's a good thing to even talk to him about. Where's that headed?
Yeah,
there's got to be regulation being put into that.
Sure. You would hope so. You would hope that they would
sooner than later. It has to be. Yeah. I mean, and I can honestly say I know because I see how many people buy Sheep's Head jigs. I see how many people come in and ask for the little teeny crabs or fiddlers or little calicos or whatever they're using, Asians, whatever it is, you know what I mean? So, and I see how many jigs we sell, and these people, and you know what else we sell a ton of is sand fleas. Oh my God. It's probably one of our best baits we sell. Well, we sell a lot of gallons per day.
Well, and they're great for flounder too.
They're great for flounder.
I mean, pretty much anything will eat a sand flea.
Everything will eat it. Know what else is a sand flea a treat is a weakfish.
Yeah.
One of their favorites.
Yeah.
Some of the best weekie fishermen will throw the white bucktail and the purple worm, the old school. And then the next guy comes in, he's got like a bare hook with barely any weight to keep it so natural. And he puts 2 sand fleas on, and their legs and they go wild.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They just love it.
We used to do that when we were little. We would just catch the sand fleas and toss them out. I've actually stopped targeting weak fish.
I haven't either for a long time, man. It's been a long time.
If they're there, I catch them as bycatch.
Oh yeah,
and there's some decent size.
There's been more this year. I've seen bigger. I saw a few 10 pounds, a couple 7s, couple 5. You're seeing bigger ones, and you're hoping that's work. It's got to work. That the fact that what the fishery's been for the last 10 years.
Yeah, at
one fish. You know what I mean? And the size limited. What was it, 12 and a half?
13.
13, yeah. That's got to work. But, one of the biggest things, so if you go out in front in Ocean, if you know the Ocean City area at all, I don't know if you know how well you know.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're outside of GE and you're over, let's say, by the Ferris wheel, you can catch spike weakfish on little jigs all day long. I mean, one after another, 100,000 of them. But they're always spiked.
Yeah.
They're always like 8 inches to 10 inches. Yeah. And I'm like, I had an interesting conversation with somebody, like a biologist the other day, and he was telling me, I'm like, why every year they're the same size? Like, why aren't they growing? And what he pointed out to me was how vast or how much more the dolphin population, the actual flipper dolphin population. And they corral them fish. They suck them down. They can imagine how much they love a weak fish, right?
Yeah.
So he's telling me when the dolphin population is so, it's almost like, I think he told me it's like 10 times what it normally ever was.
Yes.
So they're corralling the bunker and all this fish off the beach, and they're just sucking these things down like they're candy all day long. And then we have the pilot whales coming, like we're getting all these other big things that maybe are digressing the speed of how they're growing.
Yeah, I did some research. Yeah, I did some research on it a few years ago, and because everybody wants to blame the commercial guys. The commercial guys all want to blame the wreck guys. It's neither. Yeah, sure. Nobody's catching them, and it's because of the spiny dogfish in the Delaware Bay and the dolphin. And for some reason, I'm going to sound really insensitive to some people right now. They're going to get offended, but for some reason, we're protecting all of these dolphins, but the dolphins are absolutely devastating full fisheries and species.
The ecosystem. Yeah, the ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally out of whack. And
I know.
And the striped bass, too. The striped bass are also killing them. So what we've put with our crazy regulations with no forethought on the entire ecosystem, we've propped up striped bass and we propped up dolphin. Mm-hmm. And the offshoot of that is we've absolutely almost destroyed and wiped out the entire weak fish population. So they got to do something.
I mean, I'm hearing the same consensus from biologists, even. So where you're saying is bound to have total merit.
Yeah, and I forget who I was out with. It might have been I think it was John or Ed. We went fishing behind Avalon. Mm-hmm. And we're in the kayaks, and it was late season, so it was after flounder, and we were back there looking for some backwater striped bass. And wouldn't you know, the dolphins start coming. We're catching weak fish.
Yeah.
And we're throwing it back, and it is thick. I mean, our fish finders are absolutely lit up. I think it was John that was with me, actually. I mean, totally lit up. And we're like, oh, my God, these are all weak fish. Mm-hmm. All the way back to Patty's Hole. I mean, we're talking about a mile of weak fish. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the pods of dolphins started rolling through, and they were just blitzing, and they just and all the schools were just go. I mean, I don't know how many thousands of fish that they took out of there in just one pass.
It's unbelievable, man. It's crazy to think about how much they take. I mean, you're right. I mean, we blame ourselves and amongst commercial guys and recreational, everybody gets blamed, but you're right.
For weak fish, you can't. It was neither.
You can't.
It's neither.
Yeah, you can't. And no, because what are we taking?
Nothing.
I mean, what are they taking? Nobody's.
They're taking almost nothing. Almost nothing. Right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it comes down to other natural factors. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but that's So that's why I try to stay away from the weak fish, and you're 100% correct on those. I'm gonna ask Jim about his thoughts on that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I want to tune in for that and hear what he has to say.
Yeah, but we got to do something.
But yeah, I'm curious of that and from him, and also about the sheep's head, what they're thinking, like what he's hearing about, how that's. I'm sure you're going to ask that question.
Yeah. I want to talk about some of the unregulated species like redfish. Also, you can catch them up here.
You can, for sure.
Should the speckled trout be lumped in with the weak fish? They are entirely different species. They are not
totally different. Totally different species. I catch speckled trout in Florida. I mean, that's what I go down there. And it's a totally different species. And I don't think there's enough being caught. Like I don't to regulate that one yet. Yeah. I see it. I see plenty sheep's head being caught. That's an everyday fishery. Every day being caught. Every single day of the summer. And I can see, you can feel it, you know what I mean? Yeah. And being in my business, I mean, I just see what it is every day. And I don't see, if I see a red once every few weeks, it's a good season for them. You know what I mean? Like, there is a certain time in the summer where you might be a little more prevalent to catching one. But again, I don't think yet here. I just don't see enough of it, in my opinion. Right. Do you see enough? I mean, what do you see? I don't see that many.
No, I've seen them. Yeah. I've not caught one.
Right, exactly. So I mean, there you go. I mean, it's not like you're not fishing and not trying to catch one. Right. So I mean, but as far, I would have to say that if there's an unregulated species at this point that's going to get regulated, it would have to be a sheep's head.
It probably should.
Yeah.
I mean,
I hear from people and they're like, oh, why would you say that? And I'm like, dude, because again, we want to preserve this or not.
Right.
That's what I say to people. I look right at them like, you want to fish, maybe if you got 5 more years to live, maybe you don't care, but I want to see it go forever. Right.
Yeah. I'd like to fish with grandkids someday.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, it's like, this is just common sense stuff. And of course, yeah, it doesn't, there's a right regulation too. I get that. Like, a lot of people are like, how can there be one striped bass right now? And, I did see there was a lot of striped bass this year. You know what I mean? So like, I can almost understand concerns there, but like, to say that it shouldn't be regulated is crazy. And to say that a sheep's head at this point, the way they're catching now and the way they're continuously getting more and more every single season, I can't see how you don't regulate it.
It's got to be coming. I know that there's a lot of people pushing for it. Put a slot in there or something. I mean, these slow growing fish, I mean, you got to be really careful with them.
Yeah, man.
When you're pulling out a 20-year-old fish.
Yeah, man. Good point. Yeah.
Got to be real careful. Striped bass are kind of like that too. I mean, you talk about the recruitment classes and what is it? The 2017 class got devastated, and that's what's supposed to be pushing the next population.
100%.
I think, I think the big thing, and this is one thing I want to talk to Jim about, is there's a lot that we don't know. We assume because we caught a lot of fish this year that there's a lot, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be fish in 3 years, because there may not be the ones that are, really pushing it. So we're going to get into that next week. Now, as far as rods and reels, is there anything that we missed that we should say before we go?
I don't think so. Again, without trying to sound, like I don't have the answers to a lot of certain questions. I can't stress enough, about the fact that go, whether you're coming to me or anybody, like go ask questions about your style and, learn from somebody who does it. And I think like you got to iron out. You can't answer that question that simply, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? It's just, there's too many styles, too many types. And, I would be glad to help anybody that needs anything or has any questions. I don't care if you buy it from me. It doesn't matter if you buy it anywhere from my competition. I could care less. You know what I mean? I just want to help people catch fish. Yeah. If you have questions, I'll answer it.
Well, I'm sure people will be calling you. There's always some people in the chat saying, well, I guess I'm going to be spending a lot of money down there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, I would love to help people. And, I take it personally, this whole thing. So it's, for me, it's much more than just fishing. It's becoming friends too. You know what I mean? Yeah. Again, like, I'd love to help people and help their experience.
So there you have it. Big thanks to Chris and to John for coming on to talk through everything that we need to know about Rods and Reels 101 for saltwater fishing. I think the episode definitely had a lot of great information, give a lot of different perspectives on what to look for when you're looking for a rod and a reel. And of course, if you're in the area, stop into Tightlines and see Chris, and he'll be able to help you out in person. Now, before I go, if you're not already following or subscribed to this podcast, that would be greatly appreciated. And of course, a positive review on any of the platforms that you listen to would also be greatly appreciated and will help us to grow the podcast and draw more guests in the future. So until next week, until the next episode, get out there, get on the water, and get some tight lines.